Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be covering the English Special Booster 1.0 version of the Purple Piedmon deck. Purple Piedmon, for what it's doing, it is a tempo and value based deck where the whole idea is to play Piedmon and use his ability to just fill up your board and create a lot of additional pressure on the opponent that the opponent is then going to have to deal with. So the deck has a whole bunch of different moving pieces that all synergize well with each other to just make the deck function as a whole. Purple, as the color, likes to have more trash-based synergies, so you're going to have a lot of different abilities that utilize the trash in some way, shape, or form. So going over the deck, first up with the Digitamas, we have 4 copies of Pagumon. So Pagumon is going to be the main Digitama of the deck because he has this inheritable effect where he gives the Digimon on top of him, when attacking, trash the top card of your deck. So this is really important because we want to fill up our trash as quickly and effectively as we possibly can, and Pagumon is right now the best Digitama to do that with, so that way we could start figuring out what our game plan is based on what our trash is looking like. And then the 5th Digitama of the deck is going to be 1 copy of Yaamon. So Yaamon is just a pretty solid Digimon where he gives a DP buff if we have 5 or more cards in our trash. So it's not very difficult to fill up our trash. Getting the buff could be very, very relevant, especially if you're attacking into the opponent's security, because purple tends to have a little bit on the lower side when it comes to DP, so having a buff isn't necessarily a bad thing. Next, on to the rookies of the deck. I'm going to be running 4 copies of DemiDevimon. So DemiDevimon is a value vanilla card. He's just very efficient to play, very efficient to digivolve with, and he has some decent DP. Next up, I'm running 4 copies of Impmon. So Impmon is a really good Digimon because he has this nice on deletion ability. We get to trash the top 3 cards of our deck. So basically when Impmon goes into the trash, there's going to be 4 cards added to the trash because himself included, then your top 3. And this is really, really good because it is a very fast way to fill up our trash. So that way we could start utilizing some more of our abilities and some more of our cards. Next up, I'm running 4 copies of Gabumon. So Gabumon is really good because he has this nice inheritable effect where on deletion you get to draw 2 cards and then trash 1 card from your hand. So this is absolutely a fantastic card for the color because drawing cards is really good because it helps us see the cards that we want or need to see. On top of which, trashing 1 card from our hand isn't the worst thing in the world because, again, we're playing purple and purple has this trash-based synergy. So we could effectively use the trash to set up some of our future plays, and this is a great card to help us set up some of our future plays. And then the last rookie of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Tapirmon. So Tapirmon is pretty good because he just has this on deletion effect. We get to draw 1 card. So this is just good because we could swing into the opponent's security, don't really care if he lives or dies, and then potentially get a draw off of him. On top of which, we do have some self-sacrificing synergies, so we could utilize Tapirmon as a card that we want to sacrifice for some extra benefit. Next up, on to the champions. I'm running 4 copies of Wizardmon. So Wizardmon is pretty good because he has 2 abilities. The first one we're almost never going to really use, but if you do feel like trying to figure out how to make it useful, it's still a pretty good ability where if you have a yellow Digimon in play, this card gains Retaliation. So Retaliation is basically when this Digimon is deleted after losing a battle, whether he was attacked or he did the attacking, doesn't matter. You get to delete the Digimon that was in battle. So basically, he becomes an equal trade card, but this Retaliation ability only goes off if you have a yellow Digimon in play. But what's really, really important about the card is the fact that he's filling a very similar role to Tapirmon, where he has this on deletion, we get to draw 1 card. And that's what we really care about because, again, same with Tapirmon, we could either use him as a sack fodder card to gain some additional benefits, or we could use him to just willy-nilly swing into the opponent's security and not really care if he lives or dies. Next up, I'm running 4 copies of Vilemon. So Vilemon is the blocker of the deck. There's not really too much interesting or special about him, other than the fact that he has blocker. And because he has blocker and we have a lot of grave-based strategies, we could potentially figure out ways to bring him out of the trash, so that way we can get a recurring use of his blocker ability. And then the last champion that I'm going to be running in the deck is going to be 4 copies of Devimon. So Devimon is really, really powerful because he just naturally has the retaliation ability. Having him be able to basically swing into the opponent's Digimon and get some equal trades in is definitely a very, very powerful aspect of the card. And then on top of that, he even has the inheritable ability of giving retaliation to whatever Digimon he's digivolving into. So this is just an absolute fantastic card. He is just very, very powerful and very, very efficient. And then the only ultimate I'm going to be running in the deck is 4 copies of Kimeramon. So Kimeramon has this really powerful on-play ability. We get to delete one of our Digimon to delete one of the opponent's level 5 or lower Digimon. So this is a really, really powerful card to use as a sack outlet. So we could utilize some of these on-deletion effects, even if we can't necessarily kill off the Digimon ourselves just by attacking. We do have ways of killing off our Digimon in other forms, and Kimeramon is just one of the most powerful versions of that because it also will kill off the opponent's Digimon. We don't really care if we digivolve into him. Most of the time we don't actually want to digivolve into him because a lot of our megas just don't really need ultimates to digivolve into, or ultimates in general to be playable. So speaking of our megas, the first mega is going to be Piedmon. So Piedmon is the center point of the deck. He has 2 really, really powerful abilities. First, he has the really powerful ability of retaliation. So again, this is just a really powerful ability to equally trade up with your opponent's Digimon. On top of which, he has a really nice on-play ability where we get to put 2 level 4 or lower purple Digimon from our trash into play without paying their memory costs. And then we don't get their on-play effects, but none of the Digimon we're running have any on-play effects that fall into his ability's parameters. His on-play effect means that we're not digivolving into him. So this is why we don't really run a whole lot of ultimates, is because we're not really looking to digivolve into him. We're just looking to play him for this ability, and his ability is just really, really powerful because it just applies so much extra pressure onto the opponent. Getting 3 bodies out for the cost of 1 card is just very, very powerful. Even though his play cost is a little on the higher end, it's just the amount of value that he brings definitely outweighs the fact that we're paying a lot for his play cost. Next up, I'm running 3 copies of Beelzemon. So Beelzemon is a pretty interesting Digimon because he has this like warp digivolve ability where while we have 10 or more cards in our trash, an Impmon on our field, we could digivolve from that Impmon by ignoring its digivolution requirements and paying for memory. Even though we are already paying for memory to digivolve into it from an ultimate anyway, it just removes that ultimate restriction as long as we have an Impmon. And as we saw in the rookie lineup, we are playing Impmon, so we could reasonably figure out a way to warp digivolve into Beelzemon. Thus, another reason why we're not playing a whole lot of ultimates is because Impmon is basically like an ultimate just for warping into Beelzemon. And then Beelzemon has this nice, really powerful when digivolved ability. We get to delete one of our opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon. So not only is he a mega that we don't necessarily need an ultimate for, but he also comes with some decent removal on top of that. And then the last mega of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Millenniummon. So Millenniummon is just a very, very powerful Digimon because he has 2 really strong effects. First off, he has a when digivolving effect. We get to return one of our opponent's Digimon to the bottom of their deck and then trash all of their Digivolution sources. So this is really good because it's just more removal. And then he even has an on-deletion effect where he basically has a built-in self-revive effect as long as he has Digivolution sources. So when he were to be deleted, he just goes into the trash, and then if he had any Digivolution sources on him, then you could play him for free. So he's just a very, very sticky card that is hard to remove at times, and as such, he is definitely a powerhouse card. On top of which, he digivolves off of a purple level 6, which we have 2 different purple level 6 where after we play them, there's not really an incentive to just keep them around if we have a Millenniummon we could digivolve into. So he is just a great step up for our megas to get even more value out of our megas. Next, in terms of our options, I'm running 4 copies of Night Raid. So Night Raid is pretty good because of its main ability. We get to play 1 purple level 3 Digimon from our trash without paying its memory cost, and then it doesn't get its on-play effect. Well, again, we don't really care about it not getting the on-play effect because none of them have on-play effects, but we do care about grabbing a level 3 purple Digimon from our trash because we could use this to set up either a new chain of Digivolutions, or we could use this to just have another body on board. And then it even has a really nice security effect where we get its main effect. So when this card's revealed from the security, you also get to revive a level 3 Digimon from your trash for free. So whether it's in your hand or in the security, it's just a very, very efficient card to play. And then the last option card of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Trump Sword. So Trump Sword is a very, very powerful card where its main ability is we get to delete one of the opponent's unsuspended Digimon. So even though this won't necessarily kill the Digimon that's attacking most of the time, there's a few niche situations where it actually could. But the idea is this is just a very, very efficient removal card because it can just destroy almost anything on the opponent's field, as long as they are unsuspended. And then as far as Tamer cards go, I'm just running 3 copies of the Purple Mat because first, he's our memory fixer, so if our memory is 2 or less, we get to set our memory to 3, which is still a very, very strong ability because we just want to have as much memory efficiency as we possibly can. And then on top of which, he has this nice on-play ability where we get to return a purple Digimon or a purple option from our trash back into our hand. So basically, this just allows us to grab almost anything except for Millenniummon from our trash back into our hand, and that's just a very, very powerful ability to have, especially if we're trying to self-mill and get as many cards into our trash as possible. So this card just adds even more and more options the longer the game goes. And then it has the classic security effect of being able to play this card without any memory cost if it was revealed from your security. So overall, this is just a very fantastic card to play. And then you could run some other cards in the deck to really start to customize it or slightly change it based on how you want to play the deck. So you could run Tsukaimon. So Tsukaimon is another great rookie where he has a nice inheritable ability of on deletion gaining +1 memory. So this is pretty good because purple already is kind of like a tempo value orientated style of deck, and being able to gain +1 memory is very, very good, especially on an on deletion skill, because there's a couple of different ways to self-sacrifice our cards, and then we gain benefits for self-sacrificing, and gaining a memory is definitely good on tempo. You could also think about playing Gabumon. So Gabumon is a card where he gives the inheritable ability of once per turn when one of your other Digimon gets deleted, then you gain +1 memory. So you combo this with killing off whatever Tsukaimon digivolves into, and you could potentially gain a lot of additional memory off of this type of effect. Speaking of more memory gaining, you could also run Devimon, where Devimon has the exact same ability of Tsukaimon, except it's on another level. So you could potentially stack a Tsukaimon into Devimon, and then if you have another Digimon with Gabumon as the inheritable, then on deletion, you could potentially gain +3 memory, which is a huge swing because that allows you to play even more things on top of whatever you use to sacrifice that Digimon with. Next, you could also think about running Myotismon. So Myotismon is just a more value-orientated ultimate, where the whole idea is the fact that he has a really cheap evolve cost, so he's really efficient to digivolve into if you want to play more of a classic strategy of turboing into your megas. Next, you could also think about running Pumpkinmon. So Pumpkinmon is pretty interesting because he gives the inheritable ability on deletion. You get to draw 2 and then discard 1. So this is basically doing exactly what Gabumon was doing in the main deck, except on a different level. The only interesting thing is the fact that this is on an ultimate, so whatever mega you're going to be playing is going to have this ability, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because if your mega ever gets deleted, then you just get a whole bunch of value for your mega getting deleted, on top of which your mega is probably also going to be swinging and gaining you additional value in some other forms. So Pumpkinmon is just a really interesting card to play around with. You could also think about running Wizardmon. So Wizardmon is pretty solid because he gives the inheritable ability when attacking once per turn. You could delete one of your other Digimon to unsuspend this card. So this is pretty good because getting in multiple attacks is a very good thing, on top of which we're deleting one of our other Digimon, which we have a whole bunch of Digimon that want to be deleted. So if they're sticking around on the field longer than we want them to, then Wizardmon is a fantastic way of getting them off the field for some additional value. As far as alternate megas you could possibly run, you could run a Metal Garurumon. So Metal Garurumon is pretty good because he has a when attacking play. We get to play 1 per level 3 purple Digimon from our trash without paying its memory cost. It doesn't get its on play effects, but again, we don't care about that part for the most part. We just care about the fact that when he's attacking, he's just spawning more Digimon on the board to potentially cause the opponent a lot of extra pressure and problems, so that way they have more to deal with. Next, you could also think about running Boltmon. So Boltmon is a just value mega where he's very, very cheap and efficient to digivolve into. On top of which, because he's a mega, we could figure out some really, really interesting ways to stack him to really make use of the fact that he is a just very efficient card to play. Next up, you could run Heat Viper. So Heat Viper is a pretty good option card where, yeah, it costs 5, but we get to delete one of our Digimon to delete up to 2 of the opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon. So this is acting as a good way to clear multiple threats that the opponent is trying to prepare, and all for the low cost of obviously playing the card and then deleting one of our own Digimon, which again, we have a whole bunch of on deletion strategies, so it's not like that's necessarily the worst thing in the world for us. But the important thing is the fact that it is having the ability to remove multiple threats on board. That is what makes this card really, really good. On top of which, it has a nice security effect where we get to add this card into our hand. And then lastly, you could also think about running Back for Revenge. So this is a pretty good option card in which one of your Digimon gains the on deletion effect of basically replaying itself for free. And then obviously you don't get its on play effect, so that does matter, but this isn't exactly targeted to your lower level Digimon, so you could reasonably play this on a Mega, you could play this on an Ultimate, you could play this on almost anything you want, and then when it gets deleted, it basically revives itself. So that's just a very, very powerful ability to play around with, and as such, unfortunately, it doesn't have any security effects, but its main effect is just that powerful where it kind of warrants not having a security effect. And because Purple has a whole bunch of ways to get rid of its own cards, that just means that you could use this card to set up for some insane combos. So for the most part, this is just what 1.0 version of Purple Piedmon is doing. Like I said before, it's a very tempo and value-based deck where you want to squeeze the most possible value you could out of your cards while playing them as efficiently as possible. So that's all I have for this video. As always, I'll have the deck list in the description below, and feel free to tell me your thoughts about the deck in the comments down below. And as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I will see you in the next video.